Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Yvonne and you are on Ginger Chick Rehab, where I love to do crafts, DIYs, and share with you what visions I have in my head to recreate. So in today's video, I am using drop cloth fabric to make Christmas decor. Actually, Christmas decor that some of it can go into the winter season. Yes, you can make some amazing decor using drop cloth fabric. So these are one of those things that you kind of look at when you're at a sale and you're like, what do I do with them? And then as I'm walking around the sale, I'm like, oh, I have an idea of what I could do with them. If you're confused by what they are like sock dryers, sock stretchers. There's different sizes on the top. I was trying to show you, but I don't think it scrolled in to be that small. So I think I have a couple different sizes going on here, but that does not matter. So I just buy drop cloth from Harbor Freight or from Amazon. I pre-wash it, no softener whatsoever, because I always want it to be ready to use. Just like projects like this, once I get them in my head, I can't get them out until I do them. So I am going to make these look like stockings. I have a couple different drop cloth pieces that I'm trying to use up, and if you notice, from drop cloth to drop cloth, from store to store, they're all a little bit different. So I think I'm going to be mixing two different types of drop cloth, though you're not really going to notice it, but as I'm touching and feeling it and seeing it next to each other, I can tell the difference. So I'm just going to try to make sure that the ones are all on the same side, if that makes sense. So all I'm going to do is just get a general size of what I need the stocking to be. Now I'm going to do both sides. I'm not just going to adhere to the one side. I'm going to have both sides be covered. The one thing about drop cloth fabric, it hot glues so easy. So this is a no sew, don't get your sewing machine out or have to do it by hand type of project. Now all I'm doing is running that bead of glue nice and tight with the metal form, and then I'm just pushing that fabric down into the glue. So on one side you'll kind of have an indent of where you're pushing it down on, but such a super easy project. So next I'm going to go ahead and take some fabric shears and start cutting the excess fabric away. Try not to cut in where I glued, because then of course I will loosen up the glue. And I wish I could have found my smaller fabric shears at the time of this video, but that wasn't happening on this one. So I have to make some tight curves with some longer scissors. So now I need to cut off some of the excess fabric at the top. I just want a little roll over, nothing fancy, just a jagged edge. And then I want to leave at least one side open, so if somebody wanted to stick a little bit of greenery or some type of decor in there, they can. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, I should have glued it, turned it inside out, and put it back over. But if you notice, the foot part of the sock form is bigger than the neck of the sock form, so I can't guarantee that it wouldn't have gone back on smoothly. And we have a plan for the jagged edges, so don't worry. If you've worked with drop cloth fabric before and you have cut it, you know that it frays. So we're going to let it fray. So I'm just taking some sandpaper, just some well-used sandpaper that I have in my stock, and since I glued this, I'm not going all the way past the glue. I'm just going that little bit of a free edge that I cut, and all that's doing is just kind of making it not look so like I just cut it. It's just making some like fuzzy ends, which is a good thing. My motivation and my inspiration for today's video comes from all the times I run across this site, 1871 Farmhouse. I think she is on Instagram and also on Facebook, but I just see her beautiful neutral palette and I want to recreate her old-timey look. I'm going to be using my Cricut today to make some stencils on some vinyl. So what I'm looking for is some old timey cursive wording. I'm looking to number my socks. So I just was looking for some type of a cursive that looks old timey, and oh man, there's so many fonts to choose from. So I really have no idea if she finds the socks as is or she creates them out of old sacks or she makes them out of, I have no idea, y'all. I don't know. I am one that looks at pictures and then I run with it and I'm like, okay, how can I recreate this? So I'm not doing like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to make them look like they were salvaged type of finds. Yes, even fabric can be salvaged finds. Now that I have my stencil on, I protected my area, I'm actually going to try for the very first time, I'm going to be using some of the Fusion's wax for my stencil color. I'm going to apply it just like you would paint. I'm really looking for that old-timey look, and sometimes paint is a little bit too crisp. So I thought, you know what? I use drop cloth fabric all the time when I am waxing something and I know that it doesn't just wash off. So I thought this would be perfect and hopefully it will just give that nice shading to this. Now, if I'm giving this an old-timey look, I don't want my fabric to look all nice and clean. So I'm going to be using some of the Fusion's aging wax. I could use the black, but I want it to kind of look like dirt age. I want it to look like age. So I'm just using a fan brush and just lightly, like I dry brush, just like paint with the wax. It's put a little bit of wax on the brush, take a lot of the wax off, and then just gingerly go in, especially around the edges, the hard edges there. And then as you see, I'm just stroking the brush to give it just a little bit of color. And oh, I'm loving it right off the bat. And I don't really feel the wax on the numbers. It did exactly what I was hoping it would do. Of course, running the fan brush up and down made the fabric fray even more, which is wonderful, but I do need to go in and give the sock a little bit of a haircut. For this one, I want to make a long sack. But as I'm cutting off this fabric, I want to be able to, drop cloth has that wonderful edging, that banding, and I want to be able to use it in my design. So I'm going to make that my focal point in the front. So it's kind of going to be a long rectangle shape. So I'm just like, it's all eyeballing, no measuring. You just kind of do what you feel like you want to do. But I do not need to have the tag on there, so we'll go ahead and cut it off. And I'm sure some people are thinking, oh, iron it, iron it, iron it. For that old-timey look, I don't want a crisp linen. I want it to have all those wrinkles, even though drop cloth doesn't necessarily always iron very well. So now that I have that all determined, I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit cleaner of a cut on my sides. It was just a general cut. So I'm just going to fold it in half. I'm just going to use a ruler as a guide and my rotary cutter to cut the fabric a little bit straighter. This bag, I will need some handles for hanging. So there is some of that banding left, and I'm going to go ahead and trim that off because I will need some pieces of it. On my socks, I didn't mind if they frayed, but on this one, I really don't want it to fray. So for the back side, I'm going to put some hot glue. I'm going to roll just a little lip down. Like I said, this is just an eyeball project. It's that perfectly imperfect. It does not have to be perfect by any means. So just a bead of hot glue, and then I'm going to fold it over. I'm actually going to go ahead and do it twice so that doesn't come, like even just folding it over once, you'll get all those little frays, but folding it over twice should seal it in. Now I need to glue my sides together. So I have determined what's going to be my front with that banding, and now I'm just taking it as close to the edge as I can and running another bead of that hot glue all the way up. And then I'll just put the fabric on top of each other and it'll be glued together. Like I said, oh my goodness, drop cloth glues and stays adhered so well. Just to reassure that my sides will not come apart, I'm going to go ahead and roll over that side one more time with some hot glue. I need to create some handles using that banding that I cut off. They don't need necessarily to be very long, just something that will give it something to hang on. So I'm just kind of eyeballing. Yeah, like I said, it's an eyeball project. And then the hot glue will adhere very well again, so I'm not worried about it coming off. So I'm just determining what size of the banding looks the best so that the bad side's in the inside, giving it a second to set up, and then I'll fold it over and then glue it onto the other side. So what I'm doing is I'm tucking it right into that corner. I'm gluing one on the back, one of the pieces on the front, and then I'm almost gluing them together after, since the glue is warm still, and that way I know that they're nice and secure and they're tucked in those corners. I do want to add some wording on the front of this, and I'm looking for a Merry Christmas in almost an old-timey font. So I just searched Merry Christmas in the images to see what they had available. I am one that sometimes cuts my lettering on my stencil a little bit close to the edge, so I always seem to have to tape off, but I rather take the time to tape off than accidentally get color on where I do not want color to be. Oh, wow, is that not just absolutely gorgeous? But just like before, I do want to add a little bit of age to the bag to make it look like it's been well loved. And the antiquing wax glaze, oh, from Fusion is doing exactly what I want it to do. So of course I'm doing the edges first because that's where it would touch other things and be touched the most, and then I'll just lightly fade it in. I'm going in very gingerly. I don't want to go crazy, and just a little bit is seeming to do it. And of course I'm going to do both sides. Now the one that I saw, she just had it hanging from hooks, but the spacing, everybody's spacing is different. So I'm going to go ahead and use this aged already dowel rod, just cut it down to size. I don't want a lot hanging off on the sides, just something, that you can hang it from. Yes, it'll be kind of a frumpy sack because drop cloth fabric is not terribly stiff. So really want to be able to see my wording. So I'm going to go ahead and do some of the polyfill to help it puff out a little bit. I do want to add a little bit of greenery in here with a few little rusty crusty bells just for some decor. Now for my next one, I want to create a pair of mittens. So they don't need necessarily to be huge. I guess they could if you wanted to, but I'm just going to be using my hand as the form. So I don't know if I necessarily have huge hands. But anyway, so I need 4 pieces of the drop cloth fabric. Like I said, I'm using all the bits and parts that I have that have just been in my fabric stash, that this is a good way to get it used up. Now that I have 4 even pieces, I'm just going to trace my hand. That's it. I have gloves. I don't have any mittens. And I guess you can print a mitten form off like the interweb if you wanted to. But I thought, you know what? I can just use my hand for this, just slightly making it a little bit larger. I might have wanted to go even a little bit larger for my end results, so I'll just share that with you right now. But I didn't, I already started drawing and I was committed to do this, but I do want to go up my wrist just a little bit. Not that I'm going to use the rotary color to cut them the whole shape out. I was just making my straight line first, but I am going to cut them all four at once. That's why I wanted my fabric to start off being all the same size. Now I'm going to start to glue them together. So I have two pieces, and I'm really going to try with my hot glue gun to follow that rounded edge, because I know if I don't, some of my, when I flip it inside out, will look square. So I'm just going to try my best to follow that curved line. Before turning these right side out, I wanted to make sure that my glue was cooled. It had set up, that way I'm not pulling it apart and then very gingerly turning it right side out. So the thumb was a little bit, hard to grab onto, so I ended up, using the assistance of a tool to kind of poke that out. But I didn't have any problem with it not staying glued. But I do want to flatten down my edges. I want to see if I can help them be a little bit rounder, so I am going to use my mini heat press to iron it down. And the iron will then, of course, heat the glue back up and hopefully just like get to round a little bit of those corners a little bit better. So, and especially since the glove is kind of puffing out since I flipped it, I'm trying to just kind of smooth it back down. Now where the arm hole is, the hand hole is, I need to go ahead and fold that down. So a little bit of glue, I'll roll it into the inside. I'm not rolling it onto the outside, I'm rolling it into the inside. Need something for these to hang also, so I'm going to go back to that banding that worked out perfectly for the bag right before. So I'm just kind of eyeballing what I think I'm going to need. It probably still is a little too much, but that's okay, I can cut more off. But yeah, I'm going to glue it on just like I did for the bag, where I glue it, and I'm going right into that seam corner, right all the way into the corner, gluing the one on the front and the one on the back, and then kind of letting them adhere together. Now I'm going back to my Cricut. I'm just stenciling, I'm just typing out 25. So Christmas 25, or it could stay up all. It doesn't really matter. It's just it has a meaning, but it doesn't have to have a meaning, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just looking for some old-timey fonts, just something I think would make this look like it was old world. So yet again, playing with so many fonts is just crazy. And then I have a size in my mind of what space I want to fill up on the mitten. Yes, I realized that I did not necessarily put my 25 on the right side. Oh well. Oh well. I'm going to make it a pair anyway, so I'll just, work with it the way it is. But love how these are turning out. Things happen and you just have to roll with it. That's how I feel about projects like this, especially since you can't change it other than making a new one. So I want to add a little bit of decor in these, just some greenery, just some simple rusty crusties. Oh, these are so pretty. Now my next one, I'm not even sure, it might even be a new purchase good because I saw this a couple times at a couple different antique malls. But I know my base, I need a cardboard box. Well, I just need pieces of cardboard anyway. Structurally, I need to stiffen up my drop cloth. And as far as sizing goes, I am just kind of making it up as I go. Like how much, I'm trying to remember what the sizing. I didn't even take a picture of it. I'm hoping that it's still in my brain to remember. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that drop cloth fabric and we're going to just make it more of a workable size, but I'm going to glue it on to the cardboard, but just on the edges, because like if I do it all over the back like you do like a spray adhesive or Elmer's glue or school glue, um, glue, hot glue bumps up. It's a little bit on the thicker side, so I'm just going to try to keep it to my edges. I mean, just a little dab is going to work to keep this in place. But I don't want you to see the cardboard, so we're going to do both sides of this. But before I put anything on it, I need to add a hanging system. So I'm just cutting off a piece of the 17 gauge wire. I love buying it in black because it already looks old-timey. And I'm actually, after I get it hot glued on, let it cool, I'm going to put another piece of cardboard on top of that. That way I'm for sure that this is going to stay in place. So I just left a wee bit when I was cutting off. So what I'm doing now, bead of hot glue on the sides, and then I'm going to connect the two pieces of drop cloth together, and that will hide the cardboard. So now I'll take that excess on the top. I didn't want to do that before. I didn't want to cut it off before because I want to glue the drop cloth around the wire hanger. My next step is to make a pocket for the front so we can add some decor in. But this drop cloth per se is really thin, so I'm actually going to go ahead and double up my pieces of fabric so it's a little bit heftier. Now that I have the two of the same size pieces of fabric, we're going to go ahead and glue them on the front. Yep, I kind of did, cut them down to what the size of the board was. but I'm only going to be gluing the 3 sides because, as I said, I want it to be a pocket so we can stick some decor in it. So I'll just glue on one right on top of the other. So that I'm not making a double pocket, that second piece is going to get glued onto the first piece. And then to make sure that those first 2 pieces stay together where I'm going to be doing the pocket, I'm just going to kind of do a sloppy roll, meaning it's not going to be anything fancy. It's just going to be enough tucked over twice. I already have the little sides, so it kind of has a U-ing shape a little bit hanging down. But to get rid of that crisp cut lines, I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the socks, where I just take some sandpaper along any of those edges and fluff it up, rough it up a little bit. I just want it to be frayed like it's been there for quite a while. Fun and simple as that. You didn't even have to cut a piece of wood. Cardboard worked just fine. Now I have these fern pieces, evergreen maybe, I'm not sure, but I bought them last year to do floral arranging with, and I like that they're flat, so that's perfect for this wall pocket. This time my search took me to looking for a primitive Santa to cut out. So that's what I typed in, free printable primitive Santa. Didn't really give me a ton of graphics, but I did end up finding one that I could copy and paste into my Word program to be able to print it off just on regular copier paper. I did play with my size and my print feature just a little bit because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too big for my wall pocket. The old-timey vibe is kind of having a primitive look. So I have these rusty stars that came off something that were kind of glued together. So I thought that front pocket really needs something. And then, of course, as I'm gluing it together, probably the heat of the glue released the little one. But that's okay. I can re-glue that one right back down. Now I said I just printed my image out on regular copier paper, but I do want to thicken it up because I'm just cutting around Santa and a few of the toys. So I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue this on to a piece of black cardstock. Since I chose to use hot glue to glue it on, and I said earlier in the video that hot glue hardens and it kind of looks like snakes or worms underneath. So I decided, since I still had my little mini press out, that I would just go ahead and smooth that glue down, and that'll really distribute the hot glue and make this a flatter image. That way it won't have any bumps. So now I just need to gingerly cut around Santa. Now I could slide the whole square image in there, but I don't really want, I have some other decor that I want to add in there, so I just really want his silhouette. Doing projects like this is where I'm glad that I am kind of a gatherer. I'm always looking for bits and parts that I think, oh, someday I will use it. But it's so nice when you get to use it. So I looked into my bingo cards because I think the ones that I was inspired by had like printed calendar pages, but I wasn't going to spend the time searching that because I knew I had a whole bunch of bingo sheets. And so I actually looked for a bingo sheet that had the 25 at the top. And as I'm working on my project, I'm just working on my project, gluing the images down, putting a little extra greenery. I didn't even look up to notice that my charging cord had fell down and was in the shot. Oops, you'll just have that. So I was really trying to put enough greenery around that it was just kind of emphasizing the 25. I have this pipe cleaner candy cane that I purchased out of somebody's booth that I thought that's a perfect little accent to go on top of the greenery. How pretty is this? And so super simple, y'all. My next fabric isn't necessarily drop cloth fabric, that it is some flour sacks that are more wider in color, but this is about using up my stash and what I have. And I want to make some little simple baggies for these trees that I have left over for decor. So it's going to be the same concept as you would be cutting down drop cloth fabric. I just will have a couple edges that are already pre-glued. Yet again, I'm not doing any measurements. I'm just really eyeballing what I think I'd be gluing together. I want it to be a semi-sloppy bag, so I want it to cover all the way up, as far up as on the trunk as I can. So super simple. It's already sewed on the one sides, and so I just need to hot glue that one side together. When I bought these at an auction, I came home, I washed them, and then that was it. So they are a little bit wrinklier. I want to put a stencil on it, of course, some wording on it, but I do need to iron that out so I have more of a flatter surface, especially where that was sewed. I'm sure you can envision where it was sewed, that's where you'd put the hot good glue. Now, when I glued the top, I did leave a little bit of space at the top, so I could make that roll over and a little bit sloppy of my bag. um, it was just the look I'm going for. I'm not saying that it's for everybody, but that way I'm not really so sunk into the trunk. I have 3 different sizes of trees, so they all kind of tear down: tall, medium, and short. So this is the little shorty. So I'm only using one of the flower sacks, so I'm trying to get the most out. I probably should have left a little bit more generous size on this one, but it still fit at the end. But yeah, just eyeball cutting seems to be working out just fine. It does not have to be perfectly perfect. Sometimes we're just so overcritical and feel like we're going to make some mistake. I mean, it's just random pieces of fabric that have been in our stashes. Now that I've done all 3 bags, I didn't show you all 3. We have the general size going on, just match it up to the size of the tree. Now, my inspiration had like dated numbers in it, but that was going to hurt my head, so I decided instead of coming up with random numbers, I would just use different fonts of Merry Christmas. So yes, I absolutely love creating with drop cloth fabric. It is so cost efficient. You get so much even on a small drop cloth to use, and it's so versatile. It takes paint or wax very easy, really giving it that old-timey look if that is what you're going for. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. Tell me down in the comments below which of the items I made for you all today were your favorites, and have I inspired you to look at drop cloth fabric and think, oh, I think I can create something with that in a new way. So thanks again for watching, and as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this content for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we've uploaded a new video, and we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!